It's Scott Bischoff coming to you for Detroit Lions podcast after another Lions victory. It's getting kind of cool to see these things play out the way they are. It's impressive what the Lions are doing. They're doing things that really, really good teams do. They're not. I don't remember them doing this kind of stuff really in my lifetime. So it's been super interesting to watch this team evolve this season. We're going to break down the Week 15 matchup on the road against the New York Jets. It's a tough. It's going to be a tough task, but we're going to look at the numbers. We're going to look at maybe some ways that the Lions can come out of this one victorious and keep this march that they've got going. Last week I said there was a slim playoff hope. Obviously, every victory they have, every win they get along the way gets their chances significantly better. This is a huge week for that. So stay tuned. It's coming at you right now. Okay, so the Lions are they're doing incredible things. They're winning games. They're winning tight games. They played a lot of tight games earlier in the season, but they're also kind of dismantling teams in ways that I don't recall Lions teams doing in the past. You know, even going back to the Caldwell era and the playoff run that they, not the run, but the 2 years they made the playoffs, it always seemed like, you know, the Lions always had trouble putting the knife in and ending the games. And that was, you know, one of my issues, if not an issue, but one of the things I always thought about Caldwell is he was just too passive. You know, hey, everybody, we're up 3 points in the middle of the third quarter. All right, let's just run the clock out, kind of stuff. And it's like, well, no, you know, you need more points. And they would always find ways to lose some of those games or get themselves into really tight games that didn't need to be tight games. So I'm referring to the Jacksonville game and how they just they really took Jacksonville apart in that contest. And last week, that was a multiple score game that the Lions just didn't allow really to get closer than that. You know, and that's a 10-2 team, a fraudulent 10-2 team, but still a 10-2 team nonetheless. And then you look back at the last 6 weeks and their losses against Buffalo. That was a really tight game. They're just doing really impressive things, and just, you know, as a fan of this team, it's fun to watch. And again, like we mentioned in the past couple of these, the trajectory that they're on in a variety of ways is a very good. It's a good one. So it's fun to watch. We'll see how the season finishes, but you know, this week is. This is a challenge. This is probably the best defense that they've played in a while. Quinnen Williams, Jets defensive tackle, is an incredible football player, and you know, he's able to do a bunch of things. He's really difficult to move off the ball, but he's also really good at getting pressure. And he's injured. He's got a calf injury, and the Jets head coach Robert Saleh has made it, you know, it's calling him kind of 50-50 for this game. And, you know, it'd be nice for Quinnen Williams to miss this game. It just would make things so much easier everywhere, both against, you know, trying to run the ball and throw the ball. Because, you know, I mean, that's kind of the where we are with the Lions on offense is, It's as simple as this, and I know Jared Goff has played really well. He's had a really good year, but if you pressure him, he will make mistakes. We've seen that. So if the Jets lose a player and they lose the ability to pressure, especially from the interior, and there's just a level of comfort for Goff that, you know, maybe there wouldn't be if Williams played. That's a really good thing for the Lions offense. So You know, it's not just Quinnen Williams either. It's, you know, they have Sheldon Rankins, who's a really good D tackle, more of a 3-tech. Carl Lawson is pass rusher. He's playing really, really well right now, and John Franklin Myers is too. And that's one of the things that really stands out watching them, is they're able to get pressure with their front four and kind of drop everybody else into coverage. And when you can do that, it just makes everything so much more difficult to do. So we'll get into... I just got into it. We'll get into some more of that, but let's do the numbers real quick. So Vegas is expecting a low-scoring game. The game total is at 44. The Jets are a 1-point favorite at home. Implied totals has the Jets at 22.5 and the Lions at 21.5. Now these numbers were from Tuesday, so these numbers are going to change. But just understand that this is, you know, these are a couple days old when you watch this. All right, so on offense, the Detroit Lions are season-long numbers. The Lions are tied for 14th in the NFL, averaging 4.5 yards a carry, as are the Jets. Lions have 13 rushing touchdowns total on the season, which is third in the NFL. The Jets have 13, which is tied for 8th. The Lions are throwing for 7.6 yards per attempt, which is tied for 7th. And the Jets are at 6.6 yards per attempt, which is tied for 23rd. So you can see a little bit of the efficiency of where the Lions are better than the Jets, you know, on offense. Detroit has 22 passing touchdowns, tied for 7th. The Jets have 13, which is tied for 24th. On defense, okay, the Lions, they're tied for 30th. They're allowing 5.0 yards per carry. The Jets are 5th overall in the NFL, allowing 4.1 yards per carry. Rushing touchdowns allowed, Detroit has allowed 19, which is 31st in the NFL. The Jets have allowed 13, which is tied for 19th. Now onto the passing game. So for your passing defense, big differences here. So the Lions are allowing 7.5 yards per attempt, which is tied for 30th in the NFL. The Jets are allowing 5.8 yards per attempt, which is 5th in the NFL. I'm sorry, tied for 3rd in the NFL. Huge, significant difference there. So that's you're seeing where the Jets defense is a very stout unit. So, you know, a run defense, they're a top 5 run defense. Pass defense, they're a top 3 pass defense when it comes to just allowing yardage. The Lions have surrendered 21 passing touchdowns, which is tied for 24th. The Jets have only allowed 12, which is tied for 2nd in the NFL. So you're seeing not only are the Jets a good defensive unit, but a team that stiffens in the red zone and makes it difficult for other teams to score on them. So, you know, when some teams might give up 7, the Jets are giving up 3. You know, again, this is going to be a tough test. Sacks surrendered. The Lions have given up 19, which is 3rd overall in the NFL. The Jets have given up 31, which is tied for 16th. So they're kind of a middling unit there. The Lions have generated 26 sacks, which is tied for 23rd in the NFL. The Jets have generated 39, which is 5th in the NFL. And you're doing that without blitzing a lot. So that's where this game will be won and lost, I feel, is between the Lions' offensive line and how they handle the Jets' defensive front. Not necessarily blitzers and that kind of stuff, although I think that we'll see a little bit of blitzing, but the Jets don't really do that. That's just not what they do a lot of. This is why I earlier talked about the Quinnen Williams thing being such a big deal, because he kind of is the engine of that front four, and if he's out, it makes things significantly easier for Detroit. Interceptions generated on defense. The Lions have intercepted 9 passes, which is tied for 17. The Jets have 12 interceptions, which is tied for 7. The Lions have thrown 7 interceptions, which is 6th best, tied for 6th best in the NFL. And the Jets have thrown 10, which is tied for 12th in the NFL. So that's kind of where the numbers are. Hidden in that stuff is the transformation that the Lions defense has made since the Dolphins game a correlation. You can easily correlate it to Aubrey Pleasant being dismissed and some changes happening on the defensive side of the ball, but also Jerry Jacobs returning. And we should understand that. That's an important part of this. So these are the averages for the last 6 games. The Lions have done just a remarkable job in the last 6 weeks on defense. It's a totally different unit. The Lions are on average, the opposition passing is 23 for 37 for 277 yards, averaging 1.5 touchdowns. The Lions have 7 interceptions in the last 6 games. They are averaging 2.67 sacks per game, which is a tick up from the first 5. So significantly different defense. My guess is that if you were to look at the Lions defense in the first 5 games, they were obviously probably the worst defense in the NFL. I would say they're right on the fringe of being a top 10 type defense. Since changes were made and they've gotten on this roll. They're doing a really good job of turning over the ball. They're doing a really good job of getting pressure. All those things matter. Run defense. This is important. This is really important. Lions. Now remember, we've talked about this for a couple of weeks, so we're gonna continue to until it doesn't really matter. I'm giving you numbers for what the opposition's doing against the Lions, against running the ball, but I'm including quarterbacks running the ball in that, and that is a weak link for the Lions on defense. The Lions are going to struggle when you face a running quarterback who's able to scramble and make plays with his feet. So right now, the Lions are surrendering 24.5 yards or 24.5 carries for 120 yards, which is 4.9 yards a carry. That's including all the quarterback runs. The 6 touchdowns total rushing over the last 6 weeks. When you look at just the pure numbers of running backs, this is what running backs have done to the Lions over the last 6 weeks. 113 carries for 413 yards, which is an average of around 19 carries for 69 total yards. That's it. The Lions have given up 2 rushing touchdowns to running backs in the last 6 games. You're seeing it's such a dramatic difference in the first 5 weeks as opposed to the next 6. The first 6 weeks as opposed to the next 6 kind of thing. 18 carries for 69 yards. Two total touchdowns in 6 weeks. Teams are averaging 3.65 yards per carry running the ball on Detroit via their running backs. Obviously, just looking at the defensive numbers, the Lions have done a complete 180. It's incredible. So, and they're doing. I mean, from a draft standpoint, from a roster building standpoint, they're doing a lot of these things with younger players. It's remarkable. They're my guess. I don't have great numbers for this, but my guess is they're one of the younger teams in football. Aiden Hutchinson's doing his job, doing a really good job. James Houston is a productive pass rusher in very, very limited opportunities. I think those are your 2 leading rookie sack getters in the NFL, which is remarkable. Then you have Malcolm Rodriguez playing pretty well. I will tell you, I don't think he's playing great in coverage right now, but again, he's a rookie doing a good job. Kirby Joseph looks like a player. You're getting lots of good play out of younger players, so it's good to see. On offense, we have to hand it up to we have to really understand that Jared Goff is playing fantastic football right now. I also need to let everybody know that I'm sure you already know this. I want the Lions to move on from Jared Goff. I know that really upsets people. I get it. I understand it. I understand the argument to keep him. I see it with my eyes too. He looks really good. When he is not pressured, he looks good. He's looked good the last couple of games. The last 6 weeks, he's been remarkable. He's got one interception in the last 6 weeks. He's throwing for a shade over 67% completion percentage. So he's averaging 22 of 33 for 241 yards. He's thrown 10 touchdowns and 1 interception in the last 6 games. The Lions are not running the ball well. They're not running the ball efficiently like they were earlier in the season. Over the last 6 weeks, they're 188 carries for 702 yards, averaging just over 3.7 yards a carry. They do have 10 rushing touchdowns in that 6 week span. So we're seeing pretty ridiculous number of running touchdowns for the Lions, and they do a good job of moving people off the ball. 10 touchdowns again in that 6 week period. So their averages are around 31 carries for 117 yards. So you're not running it at the clip that you were earlier in the season. But they also had some huge runs. DeAndre Swift had a 50-yarder. You had some big runs earlier in the season that they just haven't got. They've just they're grinding out these runs. I will tell you that the Lions' red zone offense has been spectacular. Goff is playing really well. The Lions' running game is taking advantage of their opportunities, and that's just kind of where they are on offense. I think it would be outrageous to come on here and start talking about their offense and just in a disrespectful manner. When I talk about Goff, I don't mean it in a disrespectful manner. It's more of when you get into a situation where you're making playoff runs and you don't think that your quarterback can get you over the top in the end. That's just kind of where I am with it. Now, I fully recognize how really well he has played this season. He's had some hiccup games. He's had some games where he hasn't looked, he hasn't looked great. He's had some bad moments in those games. A lot of that is due to pressure. That's the nuts and bolts of the Jared Goff problem. There we go. Don't get pissed at me for saying that. Jared Goff's not a problem. The issue is in his game, and it's sort of fundamental in his game, is that if you pressure him and he's feeling pressure, there's happy feet, and there is he will put the ball into dangerous places, and he's just not as accurate as he can be when he's feeling comfortable. I think it's fair I think those are all fair criticisms and a fair generalization of what his game is. When he's comfortable, and I mean mentally comfortable too, it's one of the things that I think stands out with him is he really needs to trust who he's throwing the ball to. So, in talking that way, it's important for him to have Josh Reynolds healthy and playing, and Amon-Ra playing healthy, right? And it's important for him to trust his receivers, so he's comfortable in letting the ball go where it needs to go. When he's uncomfortable, it all falls apart. The Lions' offensive line has done a really good job of keeping him comfortable for the most part over this little stretch, and what they're doing on offense is super impressive. So, getting into this week, we talked about Quinnen Williams. As much as he is the engine of that defensive line, the other players around him are good players. It's not like just double team him and everybody else goes away. That's kind of the thing, because you do have to double him. You have to commit more resources to blocking him, and it does single up the players around him, which makes them more effective. But Carl Lawson's a good pass rusher. Sheldon Rankins is a good player. So not that we're wanting to players miss time with injuries and that kind of stuff, but you kind of are this week. You kind of want this would be a good week for Quinnen Williams to not be able to play or to be limited. He has been incredible this year. I mean, he really has. And I think that their overall defense would take a pretty good step back if he were to miss this game. So that's kind of, that's an over generalized thought. But so let's just talk about the Lions on offense. The Lions need to be able to run the ball better than they have in the last little while, more effectively, because the Jets do get home with lots of pressure with their 4-man front. It's better to have situations come along where you're not holding onto the ball for a long time in the pocket. So running the ball effectively on first down is going to be critical in this game. We've talked down and distance for this entire season. We'll continue to. It's important. Being 2nd and 6 kind of opens up the playbook for a lot of where the Lions have been successful, which is play action game, screen game. It opens up a variety of things that you can't necessarily do if it's 2nd and 10 or 3rd and 2 as opposed to 3rd and 6 or 7. So, I think that is, as much as it stands out in every other game that they played, it stands out in this one just maybe not so much as it did in, say, the Dallas game, because you knew that Dallas was going to assault you with their pass rushers, but also bring pressure from other places. I think it's more conventional stuff that the Lions will see. But still, pressure is pressure. And, you want to avoid it as much as you can. So that means, you don't want deep drops. You don't want Goff hanging in the pocket and staring at pressure on long down and distance. You just don't. That's going to be dangerous for the Lions. So run the ball effectively, run the ball efficiently. This will be a very important week for the Lions to spring a few big plays that we haven't seen for a little while. Think back earlier in the season when Swift was popping off, 50-yard run or a screen for, a big bunch of yardage. It's that kind of thing where you're going to need a few plays like that to help you. And there's going to be moments in this game where it's going to look, this is going to be a tough game. This is probably the stiffest test they've had in a while on the road against this team in particular. Their defense is a really good defense. The Lions do have a nice threesome at running back. I think Jamal Williams is more your conventional between the tackles runner. Swift is he's a player you need to get out in space. And when he's on, their offense just looks different. It's important to note that. For now and going forward, that when Swift is healthy and feeling it, their offense looks different, and they're more dangerous. And then Justin Jackson is fine as a third running back. You're going to need all those guys. You're going to need it all this week. Their Lions do have some illness stuff going through the locker room, so we hope that everybody's ready to roll on Sunday. We'll see how that works out. This is going to be an interesting test for Jared Goff. This is going to be one of those games where he is going to need to make throws. Last week he wasn't pressured all that much against Minnesota, and he looked really, really good. I think he'll see a little more pressure this week, so he's going to have to. They're going to have to do some. They're going to have to do some things to keep him comfortable, and a lot of that could be some short yardage throwing stuff to Amon-Ra, some jet sweep type plays, maybe some counters, to get that defensive line slowed down a touch. The screen game is going to be important in this one, but you're going to need your best out of your running game, and I don't think it's fair to say that the Lions are going to need Jared Goff to play his best game this season to win this game on the road, but it kind of feels like that. Like they really need this to be one of the games that he helps them win. And that's sort of been a criticism for a lot of us who don't love his game, is that is he a player who can win games for you, not necessarily by himself, but is he a guy that in crunch time can make it happen? So we'll see. Again, we're not gonna. We have to give him credit for the way he's played. He's been spectacular. He's played really well this year. I mean, he just has. To the point where I would imagine he's got a lot of people who were really wanting a quarterback or a quarterback change. He's probably got a lot of those people rethinking the way they were thinking about things. He's played that well. So kudos to him. He's played fantastic, and he's been as good as you could want for the most part. Now, he needs to. This is going to be a tough one. He needs to play well this week. So on the defensive side of the ball, I'm not sure who exactly is going to play quarterback for the Jets. Mike White has a rib issue. I don't know. So it sounds like he's going to play. Ribs for quarterbacks, it's always a tricky, it's a tough thing. Zach Wilson, it sounds like he's going to be their number 2. We'll see if that's exactly how that plays out on Sunday. But I could see a scenario develop where the Jets might have to go away from White just because of the injury. Now, I don't know how significant that rib injury is. All I know is, Mike White took a couple shots last week, and those are, I mean, man. So, but the Lions have been able to dial up pressure over the last little while, pressure that they weren't getting earlier in the season, and if they can, I think they'll be able to do that against the Jets. I think they'll continue to get pressure, to make the quarterback a touch uncomfortable. We've seen the Lions really tighten up defending the run. Zonovan Knight has played the last couple weeks for the Jets, and he's been good. Very tough guy to get to the ground. Rally to the ball, tackle well. Get him to the ground. Don't allow him to generate a bunch of extra yardage because of missed tackles and that kind of stuff. So that's going to be important this week. And then you look at, Garrett Wilson is a very good receiver. He's a rookie playing at a high level. They have Elijah Moore, and it's such a strange situation with how that has played out this year. Corey Davis has a concussion, but it sounds like he's on track to play. And that's kind of what you have. You have those guys, and you have kind of a straightforward offense. I think the Lions, between the pressure that they're getting and generating, and the turning over the ability to turn over the ball, those are going to be huge things. And then do the Lions get a couple turnovers or a turnover here or there, a big play, sacks, getting them off the field? You hope they do, and if they do, I think that's good stuff. If you can get that going, I think the Lions are playing great right now. So this is a game that they're in. It's just a tough matchup. The interesting thing is how looking at like red zone efficiency and that kind of stuff. If the Lions continue to be as efficient as they have been in the last while in the red zone, I think they'll be okay in this game. They're going to have opportunities. I think Goff will put them in position, and they'll have opportunities to score. It's just, can you put the ball in the end zone and get 7 as opposed to kicking field goals? And that feels like a huge part of this game, where the outcome is determined is in the Lions' red zone efficiency. So look for that. Look for them to run the ball well on first down. What do the Jets do in the red zone to stiffen, because they have the entire season? And then, what's the status of Quinnen Williams? it's going to be a really interesting game because it means so much to both teams. This feels like, I know we're multiple weeks away from the playoffs, but it almost feels like both teams need this game to keep the playoff hopes alive. And it's going to be an interesting game for that reason because it means so much to both teams. So, the Lions are getting healthier as the season goes along, and it just seems like they're facing teams dealing with some things. I'm going to say it one last time: the Quinnen Williams injury is a significant one, and if the Lions get the Jets without Quinnen Williams, I think they look okay. I think they'll be able to run the ball a little more efficiently, a little more effectively, which will take the overall pressure down, which is good. So that's kind of where it is for this week. It feels like this is going to be a tight game, kind of like I thought about games earlier in the season, that it's hard to see. It's almost hard to see either team running away from the other team in this game. So I just feel like this is going to be a close one to the end. Like last week against Minnesota, the Lions really never allowed Minnesota to get close to them. Same thing again, with Jacksonville, but Minnesota's defense is really not playing well at all right now, and the Jets' defense it's just a different animal. So that's kind of where it is. It's just this feels like a hurdle for the Lions, and boy, if they clear this one, I think you're looking at playing Chicago and Carolina and Green Bay to finish the season, and I don't even want to say the word, but they're knocking on the door, and it's such a great thing to have watched, and to see how this team has transformed from last year, and after, say, the first 5, 6 weeks, 7 weeks of this season, just the turnaround. It's been very, very impressive to see. So that's the preview for this week. Let's hope that we talk next week after a Lions victory. You guys have a great one.